We are in extraordinary times, scary times around the world, times where evil is running rampant. And it just reminds me of the Psalm 23, a very well-known psalm that is often used, known by people who are both Christian and non-Christian. And that is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me, in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Now, this chapter definitely is something we need to remember in today's times. We see the devil taking more of a foothold. His demons are working in overtime right now. They're spreading dissent and hatred, and it's coming from governments is what a lot of it is coming from right now. And they're trying to oppress people and get their foothold on people, and ultimately the devil is just trying to quash Christianity. But through this, we're seeing more and more Christians and non-Christians stand up and say no to what is going on. And we need to remain peaceful. We need to remain with dignity. Is how we need to act, and we need to remain graceful throughout this whole time. That is not saying that the government, whether it's in Canada or in the US or Australia or Great Britain or anywhere in the world, dictate how you are allowed to gather, dictate how you're allowed to worship. Know that God has commanded us to worship him and to follow him, and there's power where more are gathered. So gathering is definitely something we need to do. Right now I know a lot of people are afraid, and in Canada where their bank accounts are going to get frozen. And we need to remember that the Lord is our shepherd, and he says, "I shall not be in want." He is going to provide for us, even in the hard times. He will provide for us, and he will restore our soul as long as we have faith and hope, and we remain in him, and he's going to guide our paths. All we have to do is pray and ask for guidance and follow his commands in the Bible. Talk to our leaders in the church, and he will guide our paths to make sure that we stay in Christ's righteousness and we're walking in his name's sake. And even though right now it seems as if we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, because of all the dictatorship demands throughout, dictatorial, I guess I should say, demands throughout the world right now. I believe it is pushing us towards government collapse in a lot of places, civil war in a lot of places. I think we're going to start seeing that, both whether it's in the States or in Canada. Not that I'm calling for civil war, but I believe that this all has the potential to lead down that path. And I do believe that in various countries we will start seeing civil war rise up. whether it's in like a super violent state or if it's just like a reformal state, what I've heard people refer to as a cold civil war, that kind of thing. So I believe we're already in a cold civil war. And I believe in many countries and around the world, we are in a cold civil war. We see people rising up against their government, dictatorship. And so it's dark times. It's times where we're losing rights, we're losing freedoms, and people are saying no. Christians are saying no. And I think that's important, that we continue to say no, and we continue following God and His commands. Because although we're supposed to respect the government, God has ultimately commanded us to follow Him and to follow His commands over all other commands. And we need to remember to fear no evil, because the Lord will comfort us and He will guide us. He will provide the means we need to proceed, and direction we need. He's going to show us His goodness and love. I guess it says in there, His goodness and love, so that we can dwell with the Lord and be with Him. And so we need to stand strong as Christians. Together we need to stand, and we need to make sure that we're standing up for what is right, and not necessarily standing up for something just because the government says it. We need to think for ourselves and think through the eyes of the Bible, and take a look at it with those kind of glasses on, that how would the Lord think of this? How would He think of our actions? How would He think of the actions of the government, of what is going on? How is He viewing this? He's ultimately in control. He's allowing this to happen. It's working for ultimately His good. I believe myself that a lot of this is pushing towards those steps of end times. It's pushing us towards the where we're going to end up seeing more countries aligning together and becoming less of different governments into forming one government ultimately, and forcing us into using a single currency. I think that is what's going on. I think that's what they want to happen. And they don't realize that is what is predicted in the Bible, is that is what is going to ultimately happen. And these times, I think, are driving us towards that. Everything that we're seeing in the world. Because we're seeing so much upheaval in the world. We're seeing war talks with China, with Russia, with Ukraine, with many countries around the world. We're seeing upheaval of the people opposing the governments in so many countries around the world. And ultimately, I think we need to just be reminded that God is in control. God is our hope. He is our He's our shepherd that will guide us and will protect us in these times of evil. And we need to just stay in prayer to be protected against his demons that are working overtime right now.